All right, everyone. John here again. 18 inches down. There's a lot of talk today about frequency and vibration and energy. And these are all valid truths that are being discussed. I wanted to look at it from a little different angle because, as we know, everything in this 3D world is touch, taste, feel, sense, and smell. And it's according to our five senses, really, the things that we can see with our naked eye or a natural eye. And for all of you that have been struggling in work or your own flow state, whatever that is, or trying to see if it's even possible, you've been going around and listening to different podcasts, watching different videos, and you're like, okay, that sounds decent. That sounds okay. Man, there's a real truth that hit home there. And then something happens to us. We just kind of we get excited for a minute, and then if we're not careful, we just go right back into the patterns of the old. And that's really to the strength of our conditioning, however strong that is. Some have an easier time of jumping into that truth that they just discovered and then massaging it, if you will, tuning their dial to that particular amazing frequency. If you realize that you are energy and you start from that place and then you work your way down through the 3D material world, then you can see from a much different perspective than if you worked your way through 3D and into frequency. Oftentimes that's where we need to start, though, because we have no grid of what it means to even be spiritual, or we don't have a grid of what it means to look into another realm outside of this material body, realizing that it is more real than our 3D world itself. And if you don't know that, or if you don't believe that, that's okay, because I want to give you some things to chew on, and I believe it will really help. Because what we've been doing has not been serving us well. Talking about the humanity as it pertains to money, as it pertains to the grind, as it pertains to purpose and vision, calling, work life, career life, all of that. What we've been engaged in is a bunch of sweat and toil. And for the most of humanity, that's their reality. That's been our reality. I watched it growing up. My dad was a logger and a truck driver, owned a company, but really engaged in this thing called hard work because it was passed down through generational lines. Now you may be thinking, what's wrong with hard work, John? What's wrong with it? Nothing wrong with it. It's better than being lazy. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because when we look at the two words hard and work, oftentimes it's this badge of honor, especially with men. You'd say with women too, but especially with men, passed down through the generational line, that if you don't bust your knuckles and bleed them out for a time, then you're not a man, or you're not masculine. You know what I'm saying? You are less than a man if you don't bloody your knuckles and bruise your hands and develop calluses by doing hard labor or hard work. Listen, I've done my share of hard, okay? And I've tasted the other side of this thing called effortless, and I would much rather go with effortless when it pertains to, quote, work. I call it creative flow, and we're going to talk about creativity, because some of you think that you're not creative, and that's just not true. We're going to define that and look a little deeper into that terminology. But when we're looking at hard work, or we're talking about labor, some people really enjoy getting dirty and getting bloody in the trenches. And I would say that if you really know that you wake up each morning and you love what you do, you enjoy construction work or hard labor of some kind, and you are getting bruised and bloody and battered, and you gain energy off of that, and it energizes you all throughout the day. And then when you get home, it adds energy to your family, then I'd say go for it. Okay. If you're designed to be built to do those kind of hard, laborious things as far as physical work, and it keeps you in shape, and your family's just loving it, and you're giving them the attention they deserve, and you're giving your own body and your mind, and you're seeing finances flow, and you're just flourishing in all areas, then awesome, awesome. That's not really what I'm talking about as much as what is hard and what is easy. Because if you love what you do and you're in the ditches and you're getting bloody and you're getting dirty, then it's not like work to you. It's flow. It's flow state. It's effortless. It's more a creative flow. It's you're thinking of new ideas, and creativity is coming to you on the job, and you're in the ditch and you're like, oh, what if we did the piping this way? Or what if I came up with a new line of pipe with material, and oh man, I just dream about it. That kind of thing. Then you may very well be in your call. You may very well be in that purpose that you agreed to before you hit your body. And for others, though, hard work is the grind, and the grind is just as it sounds. You feel like you're being ground into powder. It's not giving you energy. It's not giving you strength. And it certainly isn't doing your family any good, right? Or your friends, if you're not married or you don't have a relationship. You get what I'm saying. So I want to discuss a higher level even than that, than the flow state or the grind, certainly the grind, higher than this flow state. And accessing a flow state really means, first of all, that you are enjoying and loving what you're doing. It's giving you energy, and then you're in this level of flow. But it doesn't necessarily equate to finances, because you could have a mindset of poverty and lack and be in flow state and not get anything, because your frequency, your energetic or spiritual match is not that of the creative flow that opens the portal to money flowing in. Now, you can be creative in all the unaligned or misaligned ways that is meant for somebody else. Meaning that, let's say you are an entrepreneur and you really love design, for example, designing furniture. I'm just throwing something out there, okay? Just coming to mind. Designing furniture, you're really great with your hands, you're really good with wood, and you know you're in flow. It gives you strength and energy, and ideas are pouring in, and cash is flowing whenever you engage in it. And let's just say it's a side quote hustle right now. And every time you touch your hands to it, it just works. But you don't have a lot of time because you're working behind a computer doing software troubleshooting. Okay, you're sitting in an office, and that is draining your energy. So when you go to put your hands to the flow state over there, the woodworking, something is off here, because you love this over here and it's giving you energy, but this over here is draining you. And so what I meant by you're in somebody else's flow, you're in somebody else's design, is that actually that computer desk job gives somebody the same feeling you have when you're behind the wood tools, when you're in the wood shop and you're working on the furniture. Which one accesses the frequency of creativity that opens the portal? It's the woodworking. It's the creating and designing the furniture that you love to do, because brilliant ideas are coming, and you've opened up something in the spirit realm. You've opened up something in another place that is filled with frequencies and energies that causes things to flow effortlessly. Now, you're engaged in the work or the flow or the creativity, right? Doing the woodworking. And not everything you do surrounding woodworking, I'm sure, is something that you thoroughly enjoy. Like if you're doing the computer work behind the desk, maybe you don't enjoy doing that as it pertains to the woodworking business. And this is the opportunity to say, to stop a minute and go, okay, what is really flowing to me right now? What frequency level have I matched that's actually working for me instead of against me? What is coming in and moving and giving me strength and adding its strength to everything I do as it pertains to this right here, working with my hands in the wood, versus the other stuff that surrounds it that feels more like the computer desk work, because that is not the same energetic or vibrational or frequency match. This is when you want to stop and say, okay, who do I know in my circle that would love doing the computer work, the paperwork into things? If you don't know, then what you do is stop for a moment, still yourself, and meditate. Begin to receive the answer, receive the face before you when it comes up on the inside of you as to who it may be, or the name, because the name or the face or an idea or something will pop up when you stop and you meditate and you silence yourself and just listen for a little while. Practice that every day until you get the answer. And these are the areas that are somebody else's flow state. This is the areas somebody else's matched creativity frequency. Okay. So that's a little idea of how to handle that. Now, for those of you that aren't engaged in any level of passion and you're just doing the grind, you are in that job, like the computer desk job that the guy didn't like, that was a woodworker. You are in that role that you just can't seem to stand. And it's not giving you any kind of strength at all. It just drains you hour by hour. Let's talk to you for a minute. When we're looking at everything is energy, we understand this, right? And if you don't, it's in science, it's out there, it's true, it's a reality. It is 100% true that we are energy and that we turn to matter. Everything is energy turned to matter that you can see, touch, and feel in a 3D world. What we're wanting to access is 4D and 5D. That's beyond the hunk of flesh that we are. It's beyond the things that we can touch and feel and see. And so when we're looking at frequencies in that energy realm, the spirit realm, I like to call it, because it is a spirit realm, it's energy, it's frequency, it's all of that. There are frequencies that are named, okay? And when you look at low level stuff versus high level frequencies or energies, when you're looking at very lowest, low frequency on the scale, it's fear. And that's more of a red color. And then hatred is just above that. Guilt goes above that, and it turns from red to orange. And then it starts going into the lighter colors on the scale, which means you feel lighter. You feel heavy when you're in fear and hatred and anger, don't you? You can tell that. I certainly can. Then we go up into the orange, light orange and yellow. That's despair, anger, and jealousy, sadness, anxiety. And then we get up into the green colors, the lighter colors, going into those alive colors, if you will, the greens. We're getting more into the contentment and confidence and hope. Then we get into the blues and the indigos, the violets and the purples. The highest end of that scale, you're looking at a cluster. Okay. The highest levels of frequency, vibrational, energetic things are things like kindness, gratitude, joy, peace, and unconditional love. Unconditional love is the top. Authenticity is intertwined in there. But creativity is right in that blue indigo area. Now, let me ask you this simple question. If we are in depression or sadness in that yellow orange zone and despair, we're having grappling with guilt and rejection and fear and hatred. If we're hovering in those areas, it is safe to say that we are not accessing creativity, joy, peace, unconditional love, gratitude, and all those kind of things at the top of the scale. It's just kind of basics, right? So how do we move from the bottom to the top? Well, first of all, you have to realize that the truth of the matter is that you are the very essence of who you are. The genuine authenticity of who you are is unconditional love. You are made of the very substance of love. God is love. You are a portion or a piece of God. This is not talking about religion, guys. It has nothing to do with religion. This has to do with creation, has to do with the created order of things in the universe. And so you are made of unconditional love. You know that, John. Well, think about what matters to you the most. Just stop and think about it. Do you love your mom? Do you love your wife or your brother or your sister or your children or your best friend? Do you love them? Now, if I said yes, of course, you're going to say you love one of them, right? Now, if I said, what if I told you that I wanted to do harm to one of them? Well, immediately, because you love them, you're going to say, you better not touch my family. You better not touch one of my friends. You better not come close. What happens to you? There's this passion that comes up through you, and it becomes the most important thing to your life. You can't say the same about a car. Can't say the same about a desk or a table or something that is material. But when you're talking about another human being, only love, the only highest order of love is the thing that can match that, what we're talking about. And you're passionate. You're very passionate about it. I am. Most everybody I know is. In fact, everybody I know is. And so when you're looking at it from that context, then you know that love is a major part of our life. So if it's major, it is the thing. So it's a love energy that's at the top of the scale of frequency. So therefore, we are made of love. Authenticity is right up in there. See, you can't love fully if you're not authentically true to who you are. You don't have the energy for it. You don't have the strength for it. It's zapped. So how do we look at this in a way that we can practically move from the bottom to the top? Well, one of the first ways is, first of all, becoming self-aware. I'm going to say this a lot throughout my podcasts, is you become self-aware by just saying, okay, what I'm doing isn't working. Is there another way? That's the first thing, is ask the question, is there another way? Well, yeah, you're listening to this podcast and many like them. So you're already inquisitive and you're asking, yes, there is another way, because you're hearing it different ways. So then your self-awareness starts to pop open. It starts to ignite. And then you're like, oh, I'm noticing this about myself. I'm noticing that this doesn't work. I'm noticing that I get angry when this happens, or I'm getting frustrated or depressed. Great place to be, because it's self-awareness. Then, because you're looking at it and you're saying, I want something to change, help. So you're saying that, then you become awakened, and then the help comes in energetically, it comes in spiritually. And then you start healing the egoic side of things that wanted to, or still wants to, take control and is taking control. That's healing the ego. Okay. Awakening heals the ego by allowing it in, surrendering, and allowing it to come in, because it's really what you're made of. Love comes through and spills through, or seeps through the pores, if you will, of your soul that's wounded into the egoic area of life, of inner world. And then it begins to heal, because you're made of unconditional love. Unconditional love always heals. And then, coupled with God, because you're made of God and you acknowledge God, boom, it happens exponentially. And then you start raising up in frequency or spiritual vibration. You start hovering at a different level, at a higher level. Then you move up the scale, right? The frequency scale that we just talked about, the colors. And then you start seeing bright colors. There's no coincidence that when people have spiritual awakenings, that they start seeing colors brighter than ever before. Like, you'll see vivid colors. You'll just awaken out of this blindness and out of this false matrix that we have built upon egoic conditioning all our lives. And then we begin to realize, oh, wow, okay, something different is going on here. I want to love more. I want to be more kind. I want to be more compassionate and more. And now I'm getting confident. Now I'm starting to see, whoa, I'm changing. I'm awakening. I'm changing. And then this is where it gets really good when it comes to occupation or purpose or passion or calling, is that ideas begin to drop in because we have now moved our way up the scale to this thing called creativity or creative flow. And it's a portal that opens because we have now went into that arena, that frequency scale color, and that color begins to open up at different levels of frequency, and it begins to drop in different creative ideas. Like creative ideas, creativity, the portal will open. In other words, it's like as we're at the bottom of the scale, it's closed because we're not in the conscious area, we're in subconscious programming. And consciousness, when you become awakened, you're in consciousness. You're in consciousness because you're in the now. And in your now, you're in consciousness. And then the consciousness is that creativity that begins to open the portal. Before it was closed, now it's starting to open. And the more we move up the scale, if you will, more we move up the frequency scale, and we mature and we grow and we expand and we awaken, then we begin to access more of the creative flow. And this, my friends, is where the frequency of money is found that can be of good use. See, you can have the frequency of money at a low level in hatred and despair and depravity, darkness, all of those things at the bottom of the frequency scale. But it's hard to get. See the difference? Top of the scale, easy. Bottom, hard. It's hard work letting ego run the show. It is. It's sweat and toil all the way. But when we ascend, when we go up that scale and we start moving towards those brilliant, vibrant colors of creativity. See, the color purple and violet are the highest on the scale, indigo, all of those mixes of that violet, purplish, indigo color. They're the highest levels of creativity. They're the highest levels of royalty and wealth. And so you start accessing more of that, and it gets more vibrant and more brilliant and more clear in our understanding. And then we begin to chew on these ideas that come flooding in. In other words, we've popped the cork, and the cork allows the flow to come in. And this is where good money, if you will, for good use, comes flooding in on the wavelengths of those frequencies without, here's the wonderful part, without effort. So by mere virtue of moving up the scale and awakening, we automatically access the frequencies of creativity and money. And money doesn't even have to come when you created a product. It just is. So what happens when you're in gratitude and joy and peace and unconditional love at the top of that scale? Creativity is right in there. What happens? You're joyful. In fact, joy is at the top, near the top of unconditional love. So what happens? Joy. When joy is flooding our soul, and we're in joy without having created anything yet, as far as a product, joy, by merely having joy and sustaining joy for the mere purpose of that I am joy because I'm now in that vibrational match, this is where money is magnetized to us without having done anything. See, you read about miracles and you see miracles happening with different saints of old, and look at Jesus for a moment. He was the embodiment of joy and gratitude, certainly unconditional love, because he's unconditional love in human flesh. So he's walking the earth, and all he does is looks up, gives thanks, bam, feeds the 5,000 with fishes and loaves. It's a miracle story right in the Bible. Another time, he's just like, does a miracle, and there's a centurion that approaches him and says, look, my servant is sick, and if you just say the word, in other words, if you say the frequency of healing, All you got to do is open your mouth, because you are the frequency of healing, but you've opened your mouth because he's in those high vibration states. If you just open your mouth and send a word of healing, it'll be carried on the wavelengths over, and then open up the healing realm to heal my servant's body. We're all one anyway. We're all connected. So it in other words, it'll lift them up to match it. It'll lift the servant's vibrational match up so that it hits that same level of frequency of healing. Because what happens when you send the word from the one that created it, the whole thing, and was full of love and is walking, living, moving pillar of miracles, when you hear word that you're healed, what are you going to do? You're going to leap for joy. So you're going to match it. So it's in those realms of the miraculous where the frequencies of effortless flow are found. And when we have gratitude and joy and peace before we see anything, before anything is ever made with our hands, before we engage in any kind of creative flow, the things that we want to do, the things that we want, that we dream of, that we have vision for, gratitude carries us up to joy. Joy floods in. Money comes right in on the wings of those wavelengths. And then here's where it gets really good. You're like, oh, okay, that came in without me doing anything. I am so grateful that I want to put my creativity to, quote, work. Now, I want to put my hands to the creativity. I want to put my hands to the ideas. I want to put my hands to it, because now I'm doing it for sheer joy that, wow, God loves me so much that this thing came in on the wings of joy. There's a scripture that says the joy of the Lord is my strength. The frequency of unconditional love. The frequency of unconditional love is joy. Because if you know that you're experiencing unconditional love for yourself, you're going to have joy. And that joy is your strength in your creative flow. So if I have money coming to me without me doing anything for it, because I've hit that frequency of joy and gratitude and thankfulness, I'm like, wow, I am overwhelmed with enthusiasm. I'm overwhelmed with excitement and joy, and flooding my soul as this elation that I can't help but put my hands to the creativity and make the products. See, oftentimes we have it backwards, don't we? We have this whole thing backwards. We're just like, well, I'm going to put my hands to it. I'm going to grind it out. I'm going to hustle. And then I'm hoping this is going to work. And if nobody's going to take care of me, I'm going to take care of myself. God helps those who takes care of themselves, who help themselves, kind of thing, right? And all that is ego doubling down and trying to make it happen for themselves, when in fact, it's totally accessible to go into the other place I just mentioned. It's totally accessible for every human being. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how bad you've been. It doesn't matter how good you've been. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what ethnicity. It doesn't matter what flavor you are. It's accessible to every human being on the face of the planet, and it's free. This is the beautiful thing. It doesn't cost you a dime. And so what am I doing right now? I'm accessing that realm by engaging in the gratitude and the joy that I have for being able to do this, because I love doing this. But also I've seen this work and happen in my own life, where things just show up every time I maintain that spiritual posture. Every time I maintain that level of frequency, things just pop in. Now, because we're not, let's just say, perfected in this yet, many of us, we're still massaging this principle. We go in and out of it. So you know, for a time you'll see this manifestation, and then the next you're just like, what happened? It dried up. Well, oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm in my head. Yeah, that's right. I forgot that, you know what? I have this effortless ability on the inside of me. Yeah. Let it go and flow. Let go and flow. I like to call it paddles up. Put these two paddles that put my hands to the hard labor. mentally speaking, soulishly speaking, and physically speaking, in those areas that I don't enjoy, those lower vibrational things, those frequencies that are, frustration and depression. So I'm going to throw my hands up in the air like I just don't care and watch. I heard it said by a spiritual guru way back in the 20s. She said, when you position yourself as a ship in the I don't care sea, meaning uh, I'm in a position of it doesn't matter. I'm content right where I'm at, and I'm joyful. I'm grateful. Boom, your ship comes in on an I don't care sea. See, it's like this, as well as those people that don't really care whether they get money or not, or get wealthy or not. They're just so in love with what they're doing, and it's just flow to them, and it gives them energy. Those are the ones where the money just piles on them, and there's like, it's not about the money. And then they're just like so in love with what they're doing. Jim Carrey mentioned something like this as well. The actor, the comedian, he's like, people said that I was totally depressed and battling with depression because I left Hollywood, and I left acting, and I went into doing my art and meditating and going deeper spiritually. And they said that I was just off, just lost it, and was in deep depression or something. He goes, couldn't be further from the truth. I'm living my dream by doing this right here, by doing his art and going into spiritual practice. And he wishes that everybody could be as successful as he was, to see that it's not what you really want. It's not what we really want. It's like many have said, many spiritual people have said, many teachers have said, the feeling we're after is to feel joy. The feeling we're after is what we're after when we get the $1 million, when we get the thing that we think is going to give us happiness, and then we get it and we're like, oh, well, that didn't bring me more happiness. Where I was happy is by me putting myself in that position, no matter what happens around me. I was happy first. I was joyful first. I was filled with gratitude first, enthusiasm and love. So getting back to this portal of creativity, this is what's pretty amazing, is that there is this place that we can access that is filled with effortlessness and ease. And when you're looking at creativity, I don't want that to set you back, or because I can just hear somebody saying, I'm not creative, John. So this really doesn't pertain to me. Oh, yes, it does. Everyone is creative. And let me define it. I like this definition the best. It says creativity is defined as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. See, so it's not necessarily just pertaining to artwork, design, writing a book, that kind of thing. It could mean alternatives. You're recognizing ideas, and this will happen. It'll flood in when we are moving up the scale through surrender. Surrender is the doorway in to say there has to be something different. So I'm going to surrender and put my hands in the air, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to practice surrender every day, every morning. I'm going to practice this, and then watch what comes up on the inside of me, because now I'm ascending. The more we surrender, the more we ascend up the scale in expansion, growing spiritually, and the rest. So I would really challenge any mindset that says I'm not creative based on that definition. And then when you look a little further, look what Albert Einstein said. Quote, everything is energy. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Einstein said that. Few can argue with Einstein, right? Some of the things, maybe not a lot of the things, right? You get this guy was a genius. Everything is energy. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. It is a law. It is a spiritual law. You match it, you get it. You match anger with anger, you get more anger. You match depression with it, you get more of the same. This is why when you're around certain people, you begin to act like them and talk like them, especially children. They're sponges, right? A child will walk near an adult will say a certain thing and they'll copy them. They're just a sponge. So because it's all energy, we match the energy that we look up to or that we're influenced by. And so if everything is energy, like Einstein says, and so many others in the scientific world have now come to a conclusion in that everything is energy, match it with the reality you want, and that's what you're going to get. So the portal of creativity, I was shown this just in prayer and really soaking in meditation. And I was shown that it's like a tapestry of color, this area or this frequency of creativity. It's like this moving tapestry of beautiful color splashing around. And I was walking on this translucent floor when I had this vision, and I was seeing all these beautiful colors surrounding me, and they were like alive. And I asked the question, I said, God, what is that? And he said, it's the energy of creativity, and you're standing in it. See, you guys, we stand in it all around us. It's just that how much are we willing to allow ourselves to ascend into it? It's not like we're literally ascending. When we say the word ascending, it means that we are being affected by it because it surrounds us. I'm now open to it. I'm now awakened to that energy, that creativity that's surrounding me. Look around you in the 3D world. There's creativity everywhere. The trees, the rocks, the birds and the bees. But when we're looking energetically and spiritually, it is more real than this realm right here. So we can match it. We can match it. All it takes is saying, I want another way, and then be willing for the idea to come up within you as you sit in surrender, so that you can begin ascending up that frequency scale, if you will. And then when we activate gratitude, whether we feel like it or not, we are ascending. We are being absorbed by it. We are being affected by it. And then we start seeing things, synchronicities happen. We start watching as people give to us and they don't know why. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard. Like somebody said to another guy, he's like, I can't stand you. I've been listening to you on the podcast, and I just can't stand you, but I feel compelled to give you this $50,000. I can't, I don't like you, but here, I just feel compelled. Why is that? Because what happens is favor starts coming into our life, and the creativity that they're not engaging will begin to be your portion. Because if they're a Debbie Downer or a bah humbug type of person, and they're sitting on theirs, guess what? You could have access. It's, in other words, it's made to give up to somebody else that's not going to do anything with it. And so it's like, oh, here it comes. It's coming. People just become generous and they don't know why. And then you have others that are willingly generous because they recognize a match. They recognize somebody that's awake and somebody that's flowing in it, and they want a part of that to be a part of them. And so by reason of coming close and actually being generous and giving to that person in some way, then you are partaking of that creative energy as well. And then it'll start flowing into your life. See, when we give with a cheerful heart, we receive cheerfully as well. It comes right back to us. All right. There's so much more we can talk about on that, but for the sake of this podcast and the time, I'm going to end it right there. But I encourage you to check in on the next one. We're going to be talking a lot more about this and other things. And if you feel led to, or you just feel like, hey, I want to send them a note, with some ideas for future podcasts, or just, comments, suggestion, anything, it's something that's encouraged you, please let me know. I want to know where you're at on your journey and see how this has helped you. Okay. So until next time, drop 18 inches down to the effortless flow.